the universe of matter is structured in a way that prevents us from understanding it fully. Or why nature forever entangles the observer with the system he seeks to understand. Or even why we should concern ourselves with seeking the answers to such questions. We began this chapter by asking whether the advance of science, which have so thoroughly displaced the pagan superstitions of animism, have now ruled out even a Western monotheistic God. Had classical physics reigned triumphant, they might well have. Unexpectedly, the ultimate physics of nature did not complete a chain of cause and effect. It left an open window on events. A break in causality that is significant, not because science cannot master a few tiny details of the physical universe, that's not why it's significant, but because it cannot even address the question of why nature should be constructed along such elusive lines. In the final analysis, absolute materialism does not triumph because it cannot fully explain the nature of reality. But that doesn't mean that it can't explain an awful lot. Evolution is being explained, make no mistake about it. It would be foolish to pretend that any of this rigorously proves the existence of God. It does nothing of the sort. If it did, we should expect missionaries to win souls by explaining two-slit experiments in quantum physics, or by showing the derivation of Planck's constant, and it doesn't work that way. The tools of science itself have discovered that scientific materialism has a curious inherent limitation. But God is not found where science can't tread. Don't make that mistake. That's not correct. We are certainly left to wonder what to make of it all, though. It could be just a puzzling, curious fact about the nature of the universe. Or it could be the clue that allows us to bind everything, including evolution, into a worldview in which science and religion are partners, not rivals, in extending human understanding a step beyond the bounds of mere materialism. And he explains that in a really good way. And I want to get to that because it's important. So let's get down to the brass tacks of evolution, and if there is any room for God at all. This is Miller's most powerful part of his book, other than the fact that he completely, for 220 pages beforehand, demonstrated the pure power, the pure workings of evolution. This is why we can accept evolution. We ought to, because, folks, that's how it works, and believe in God. I'm really serious. This is interesting how Miller discusses this. First, what about this idea of just dumb luck? Is it just pure dumb luck? Sheer dumb luck? That's it? That is not comfortable for most of us. Miller has a remarkable way of discussing this. First, evolution is a biological process, not a cosmological one. That's important to understand. And the anthropic principle says the universe is here, and it is the way it is with all of its constants, its gravitational constant, its strong force and weak force constant, and so on and so forth, so that we are here. That's the anthropic principle. One way that Daniel Dennett tries to get out of the anthropic principle, the significant implications, is to propose multiple universes. Now, while that's fun speculation, it makes for terrific theoretical physics and cosmology and all that, the anthropic principle is a very interesting principle. The universe was made so that life could exist. That's it in a nutshell. Well, the success or the failure, and I'm on page 232 now of Miller's Finding Darwin's God. The success or the failure of the anthropic principle may be relevant to whether or not we can find God in the stars, but it does not tell us whether or not we can find him in the evolution of species. But we can. And to do that, we have to look directly at the events that drive evolution. You ready for some fun? The explanatory power of evolution derives from its simplicity. Natural selection favors and preserves those variations that work the best. And new variation is constantly generated by mutations, gene rearrangements, and even by exchanges of genetic information between organisms. Were you aware of that? Genes can swap between organisms, including us. We can swap genes with other animals. Were you aware of that? I think that's fascinating. Utterly incredible. So this is how variation arises. This does not mean that the path of evolution is random in the sense that anything can happen as we jump from one generation to the next. Although the potential for change is always constrained by realities of physiology, the demands of the environment and the current system and the complexities of the genetic system, the input of variation in any genetic system is unpredictable. Now, although not completely random, chance does affect which mutations, which mistakes appear in which individuals. That's true. As this inherent unpredictability is not a matter of inadequate scientific knowledge. That's not why it's that way. It is the reflection that the behavior of matter itself is indeterminate, and therefore unpredictable. It's one of the reasons why we cannot predict with any detailed certainty the future path of evolution. Now, for many religious people, therein lies the problem with evolution. Here's the crux of the matter. No matter how much experimental or historical evidence can be marshaled to support it, evolution is still a chance random process. Doesn't the very randomness of evolution rule out any notion of divine purpose? More to the point, if mankind is the intentional creation of God, as all Western religions teach, how could he possibly have used evolution to fashion the very creatures he made in his own image and likeness? Did God rig the evolutionary process to give rise to us? Did he only make things look natural, allowing us to emerge at the long end of a chain of events that might look random, but that really aren't random? And if he did, why? What's the point? Why would he have gone to such trouble to make our appearance seem to be the result of a random natural process when he could have simply brought us into existence in a flash? This is an aspect of evolution that has bothered believers for a long time. Even Darwin struggled with this issue, and we can see that in his exchange of letters with various different peoples about him struggling with this idea. Especially with the Harvard botanist Asa Gray, one of the strongest scientific supporters, but Gray was also a devout Christian. In March of 1860, Gray wrote a strongly positive review of The Origin of Species in the American Journal of Science, but privately, when he wrote to Darwin, he expressed concern about the implications of evolution for Christianity. Gray supported evolution and its mechanism, natural selection, but he wondered how a natural world ruled in this way could leave room for the divine. Darwin's glum reply was of little help, allowing only that he was inclined to look at everything as resulting from designed laws, with the details, whether good or bad details, left to the workings out of what we may call chance. There, in a nutshell, is the problem with evolution. If evolution really did take place, then God must have rigged everything. Otherwise, how could he have been sure that evolution would have produced us?